In this video, we're breaking down over 3 hours of unsolved Simpsons mysteries that'll completely change how you see the show. We're starting it off with the question that dominated an entire season and became the biggest mystery in television history. Who shot Mr. Burns? Who shot Mr. Burns is the biggest mystery in the entire Simpsons series. For an entire summer in 1995, fans around the world tried to solve what became television's most elaborate whodunit. The mystery was so massive that it dominated pop culture, spawned countless theories, and even had the FBI involved. This two-part episode wasn't just a mystery for the characters in Springfield, it was a mystery for millions of viewers who became detectives themselves. The setup began in the season 6 finale, which aired on the 21st of May, 1995. The episode is called Who Shot Mr. Burns? Part 1. In this episode, Mr. Burns hatches his most evil plan yet. He wants to block out the sun over Springfield so that residents will be forced to use more electricity, making him richer. Burns builds a massive device that literally moves a giant plate into position to create permanent darkness over the town. This plan affects everyone in Springfield. Without sunlight, the town becomes cold and depressing. Businesses suffer. People's lives are ruined. Burns doesn't care at all. The episode systematically shows Burns destroying the happiness of nearly every major character. He steals oil discovered under Springfield Elementary, bankrupting the school and crushing Principal Skinner's dreams. He shuts down Moe's Tavern by stealing the bar's underground oil reserve. He causes Bart's dog, Santa's little helper, to be injured. He forgets Homer's name despite Homer working for him, which devastates Homer. By the end of Part 1, practically everyone in Springfield has a reason to want Burns dead. The shooting happens at the end of Part 1. Burns leaves a town hall meeting where angry citizens have confronted him about blocking out the sun. He walks into the town square alone. The camera shows his shadow on a sundial. Someone approaches him. There's a struggle. A gun fires. Burns falls onto the sundial, wounded. The camera shows Burns collapsed on the ground, looking up at his attacker. He tries to say something. He reaches toward the sky, then he passes out. That's where Part 1 ends. The cliffhanger left millions of viewers desperate for answers. Who shot Mr. Burns? The show wouldn't reveal the answer until Part 2 aired months later on the 17th of September, 1995. This gap created one of the biggest pop culture events of the 1990s. Fox turned the mystery into a massive promotional campaign. The network set up a 1-800-COLLECT phone number where viewers could call in their guesses about who shot Mr. Burns. The contest offered a prize to viewers who correctly identified the shooter. This wasn't just a cartoon episode anymore. It was an interactive experience where the audience participated in solving the crime. The contest received over 40,000 calls. People took this mystery seriously. The writers planted clues throughout Part 1 for careful viewers to analyze. The most important clue is the sundial. When Burns falls, his body lands on the sundial with his arms pointing to specific letters. His right arm points to W. His left arm points to S. These letters seem to indicate the shooter's initials. Many viewers assumed WS meant Wayland Smithers, Burns' loyal assistant. Smithers had the strongest motive. He loved Burns obsessively, but Burns had been treating him terribly. Smithers also owned a gun. Multiple scenes in Part 1 showed Smithers becoming increasingly angry at Burns. But the W and S clue was a deliberate misdirect. The writers wanted viewers to think Smithers did it. In Part 2, the investigation reveals that Smithers has an alibi. On the night of the shooting, Smithers was at home watching a fictional TV show and getting drunk. His memory was cloudy, making him a suspect, but he didn't shoot Burns. The WS clue actually meant something else entirely. Part 1 included several other clues that seemed important. During the town hall confrontation, the camera focuses on specific characters who angrily threaten Burns. Moe says he wants Burns dead. Barney makes threats. Tito Puente, whose music room was destroyed by Burns, expresses rage. The episode deliberately makes multiple characters look guilty. This is classic mystery writing. Give everyone motive and opportunity. There's another crucial clue involving DNA evidence. In Part 1, Burns goes to the hospital and gets a physical examination. The doctor takes a DNA sample from Burns. This DNA sample becomes important in Part 2 when investigators try to identify whose clothing the DNA was transferred to during the struggle. The gun used in the shooting is also a clue. It's a Smith & Wesson pistol. Records show the gun was registered to Homer Simpson. This makes Homer a prime suspect. Part 2 opens with Burns in a coma at the hospital. Chief Wiggum investigates the shooting with all the competence of a cartoon police officer, which is to say, almost none. The investigation interviews multiple suspects. Each character had means, motive, and opportunity. Smithers wanted revenge for Burns's mistreatment. Moe wanted revenge for his bar being destroyed. Principal Skinner wanted revenge for his school being bankrupted. Even Maggie Simpson appears on the suspect board at the police station, which seems like a joke. The investigation discovers that Burns was shot with Homer's gun. This makes Homer the primary suspect. Homer has no memory of the shooting because he was extremely drunk that night. He can't provide an alibi. Evidence points to him. But Homer didn't do it. The actual shooter is revealed in the episode's final minutes. The answer is Maggie Simpson. The baby shot Mr. Burns. Here's how it happened, according to the episode. After the town hall meeting, Homer went to confront Burns about forgetting his name. Homer brought a gun because he was angry. Maggie was in her car seat when Homer went into the building. Burns came outside and walked past Homer's car. Maggie had climbed out of her car seat and was holding her lollipop. Burns, not paying attention, stepped on Maggie's lollipop and crushed it. The lollipop was the one thing making Maggie happy. Burns destroying it upset her. The gun had fallen out of Homer's jacket and landed in the back seat near Maggie. When Burns turned to leave, Maggie picked up the gun. It went off. The shot hit Burns. Burns then reached down, saw Maggie, and said, "Maggie Simpson," before collapsing. The sundial clue now makes sense. Burns's arms weren't pointing to WS for Waylon Smithers. If you look at the sundial from Burns's perspective, lying on his back and looking up, his arms point to M and S. Maggie Simpson. The writers planted this visual clue in Part 1, but it only makes sense when viewed from Burns's point of view. The episode treats this as the definitive answer. Maggie shot Mr. Burns. The mystery is solved. Chief Wiggum closes the case. Burns wakes from his coma and confirms that Maggie did it, though he's not angry because she's just a baby. The DNA evidence on Burns's clothing matches Maggie because he handled her pacifier when it fell during the struggle. Every clue points to Maggie as the shooter. But here's where the mystery gets complicated. Does this solution actually make sense? Can a 1-year-old baby pick up a gun and fire it accurately enough to hit a moving target? The episode shows the gun going off almost by accident. Maggie didn't aim, she just held the gun and it fired. But the physics of this seem impossible. A baby doesn't have the strength to pull a trigger on a handgun. The gun's recoil would knock a baby backwards. The angle of the shot doesn't quite line up with where Maggie would have been sitting in the car. Some fans have spent years arguing that Maggie didn't actually shoot Burns. The evidence points to her, but the physical reality doesn't work. One theory suggests that Homer actually shot Burns, but his brain suppressed the memory due to trauma and alcohol. The gun was registered to Homer. Homer had motive. Homer was at the scene. The show reveals Homer was right there when the shooting happened. Maybe Homer shot Burns. Then his mind created the Maggie story to protect himself from guilt. Another theory claims that multiple people shot Burns. Like the famous ending of Murder on the Orient Express, perhaps everyone in Springfield worked together to shoot him. Burns had wronged so many people that they conspired to kill him. This would explain why so many characters had weapons, opportunity, and motive. But the episode doesn't support this theory. Only one shot was fired. There's also the theory that the whole mystery was rigged from the start. Some fans analyzed the clues and claimed that the writers changed the answer between Part 1 and Part 2 based on fan speculation. According to this theory, the writers had a different shooter planned originally but switched to Maggie to make it more surprising. This theory has some support. In interviews, the writers admitted they considered alternate endings. Multiple endings were reportedly storyboarded. Some sources claim that different endings were even fully animated to prevent leaks. The writers have addressed these theories in DVD commentaries and interviews. Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, who wrote the episode, confirmed that Maggie was always the intended answer. They planned this from the very beginning of writing Part 1. Every clue was deliberately planted to point to Maggie while making viewers suspect Smithers. The misdirection was intentional. They wanted viewers to think they'd figured it out with Smithers, only to be surprised by the real answer. The writers also explained why they chose Maggie. They wanted the answer to be someone unexpected. Having another adult shoot Burns would be too predictable. Making Maggie the shooter created a shocking, but ultimately innocent resolution. Maggie didn't mean to hurt anyone. She's a baby. It was essentially an accident. This allowed the show to resolve the mystery without actually making any character a murderer. Burns survived anyway, so legally, this was attempted murder at worst. But there's an interesting detail that adds to the mystery. The FBI actually investigated the Who Shot Mr. Burns contest. The investigation had nothing to do with the mystery itself. The FBI was concerned that the contest might violate federal sweepstakes laws. Fox had to prove the contest was legitimate and fair. The investigation found no wrongdoing, but the fact that a cartoon mystery attracted federal law enforcement attention shows how massive this cultural event was. The mystery had real-world impact beyond the contest. Newspapers ran articles speculating about the shooter. Late-night talk shows discussed theories. The mystery became a national conversation. This was before social media, before streaming, before the internet was mainstream. The mystery spread through traditional media and word of mouth. Millions of people watched Part 1, then spent 3 months debating who did it, then watched Part 2 to see the answer. This kind of synchronized cultural experience is almost impossible to recreate today. Later episodes occasionally reference the shooting. Burns sometimes mentions getting shot by a baby. The show treats it as canon. In the episode The Old Man and the Sea Student, Burns says, "I was shot by a baby," as part of a list of humiliations. In other episodes, characters reference the investigation. The Simpsons treats this as something that definitely happened in their universe. However, one detail undermines the solution. Several later episodes show Maggie in situations where she demonstrates surprising intelligence and capability. She's escaped from daycare using complex plans. She's fought mobsters. She's shown understanding far beyond a normal baby. If Maggie is capable of these things, then maybe the shooting wasn't an accident. Maybe Maggie meant to shoot Burns. This interpretation makes Maggie a deliberately violent character, which changes the entire mystery from a tragic accident to a calculated act by a baby genius. The Who Shot. Mr. Burns' mystery represents something unique in television history. It was a 2-part cliffhanger for an animated sitcom that became a national obsession. The mystery was carefully constructed with real clues that could actually be solved by careful viewers. The answer was surprising, but supported by evidence, and the cultural impact was massive enough to involve federal investigators. So what do we actually know for certain about who shot Mr. Burns? Here's what is 100% confirmed. The episode Who Shot Mr. Burns? Part 2 reveals Maggie Simpson as the shooter. The gun belonged to Homer Simpson, but was accessible to Maggie. Mr. Burns stepped on Maggie's lollipop, upsetting her. The gun went off while Maggie was holding it. Burns identified Maggie as the shooter before collapsing. The sundial arms pointed to M and S from Burns' perspective. The DNA evidence matched Maggie. The writers Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein confirmed Maggie was always the planned answer. Fox ran an official contest that received over 40,000 entries. The FBI investigated the contest's legality. Burns survived the shooting. Here's what remains a mystery: whether Maggie physically could have pulled the trigger given her age and strength, if the shooting was truly an accident, or if Maggie acted deliberately, whether Homer's involvement was greater than shown, if alternate endings were actually fully animated, whether the physical evidence presented in the episode actually supports the conclusion, why later episodes show Maggie with capabilities that contradict her being a normal baby, if we're supposed to take the solution literally or treat it as cartoon logic. The Who Shot Mr. Burns mystery is both completely solved and enduringly mysterious. We have the official answer. The episode explicitly shows us what happened. The creators confirmed the solution. But the answer raises more questions than it settles. The mystery became bigger than the show itself, transforming a cartoon cliffhanger into a cultural phenomenon that people still discuss decades later. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to one of the saddest mysteries in Simpsons history. What happened to Snowball I? What happened to Snowball I is one of the strangest mysteries in Simpsons history. The Simpson family has a cat named Snowball II. She's a black cat who appears in hundreds of episodes. But there was a Snowball I before her. That original cat died sometime before the show's main timeline, and Lisa got a new cat to replace her. The mystery isn't that the cat died. Pets die. The mystery is that the show has told you completely different stories about how Snowball I died. Multiple episodes give contradictory accounts that cannot all be true. The show can't seem to remember its own backstory. And the more episodes that reference Snowball I, the more confusing it gets. The first mention of Snowball I appears in the Season 2 episode Old Money, which aired on the 28th of March, 1991. In this episode, Grandpa Simpson is telling stories about his past. During a conversation, there's a brief reference to how Snowball I died. According to this episode, Snowball I was run over by a car driven by Clovis, who is Mayor Quimby's nephew. This seems straightforward. The cat was hit by a car. It's a tragic but simple explanation for why the Simpsons needed to get a second cat. This version of events stood as the canonical explanation for over a decade. Whenever Snowball I was mentioned in early seasons, the car accident story was either referenced or implied. Fans accepted this as fact. Snowball. I died in a traffic accident caused by a reckless driver who happened to be related to the corrupt mayor. It fit with the show's pattern of bad things happening to good characters because of Springfield's incompetent or malicious officials. Then Season 15 completely changed the story. In the episode I, Annoyed Grunt, Bot, which aired on the 11th of January 2004, Lisa makes a shocking statement about Snowball I. During a conversation about loss and death, Lisa mentions her previous cats. She explicitly says that Snowball I drowned, not hit by a car. Drowned. This directly contradicts the established story from Old Money. Both episodes are canon. Both appear in the official series. Both present their version of Snowball I's death as fact. But these stories cannot both be true. The drowning explanation is never elaborated on. The episode doesn't explain where or how Snowball I drowned. Did the cat fall into a pool, a river, the ocean? Was someone responsible? Was it an accident or negligence? The episode just states that drowning happened and moves on. This creates more questions than it answers. If Snowball I drowned, then the entire car accident story was false. But the show never acknowledges this contradiction. It never says the earlier episode was wrong. It just presents a completely different death and expects viewers to accept it. But the contradictions don't stop there. Other episodes make passing references to Snowball I that don't match either the car accident or drowning stories. Some episodes imply Snowball I died of old age. Others suggest illness. The show seems to pick whatever death story is convenient for the joke or emotional beat of that particular episode. Continuity takes a backseat to what works in the moment. This inconsistency extends to other members of the Snowball family. In the same episode where Lisa mentions Snowball I drowning, the show introduces Snowball II's death. Snowball II, the cat that viewers have known for 15 seasons, gets hit by a car, driven by Mayor Quimby's brother. The show is essentially recycling the original Snowball I death story, but applying it to Snowball II. This makes the continuity even more confusing. Did Snowball I get hit by Quimby's nephew? Or was that Snowball II hit by Quimby's brother? Or did both cats die the same way? The show doesn't clarify. After Snowball II dies, Lisa gets a series of replacement cats in rapid succession. She gets Snowball III, who dies almost immediately. Then Snowball IV, then Snowball V. The episode makes a running gag out of Lisa's cats dying in various ways. Each new cat dies within minutes of being adopted. Snowball III drowns in the fish tank. Snowball IV gets hit by a car. Snowball V falls off a roof. The rapid deaths are meant to be darkly comedic, showing how unlucky Lisa is with pets. Eventually, Lisa adopts a new cat and decides to just call it Snowball II, even though it's technically the fifth Snowball. The cat looks identical to the original Snowball II, and Lisa reasons that keeping the same name will avoid the bad luck. This cat becomes the permanent replacement. The show essentially resets back to having a cat named Snowball II, pretending the deaths never happened. This is classic Simpsons continuity. Things happen, then get undone, then are ignored. The multiple Snowball deaths raise questions about what counts as canon in the Simpsons universe. If I, annoyed grunt, bot shows Snowball II dying and being replaced, but later episodes still show Snowball II alive? Which version is real? The show continues as if the cat never died. Episodes after this one show the same black cat without acknowledging the replacement. For casual viewers who missed that one episode, nothing changed. For viewers tracking continuity, everything changed. This brings us back to the original mystery of Snowball I. The show has given at least two completely different explanations for how the cat died. No episode has ever addressed this contradiction. The writers haven't clarified which story is correct. The show just moves forward with both versions existing simultaneously in different episodes. This is either incredibly lazy continuity work or a deliberate joke about how little the show cares about consistency. The Snowball I mystery represents a larger truth about how The Simpsons handles continuity. The show has been on the air for over 35 years. Different writers have worked on different episodes. What one writer establishes in Season 2 might be completely forgotten or contradicted by a different writer in Season 15. There's no continuity Bible that everyone follows, or if there is, it's not strictly enforced. Details change, backstories shift, facts get rewritten. Some fans argue this is intentional. The Simpsons is a comedy show, not a dramatic series with strict canon. Each episode is meant to be funny in isolation. If a joke works better with Snowball I drowning instead of being hit by a car, then the writers use the drowning story. Continuity serves comedy, not the other way around. From this perspective, asking which death story is real misses the point. Both are real because both are funny in their respective episodes. Other fans find this frustrating. They want the show to maintain internal consistency. If Old Money says Snowball I was hit by a car, then all subsequent episodes should reference that fact. Changing the story 15 seasons later breaks immersion. It shows the writers either don't remember earlier episodes or don't care enough to check. Either explanation reflects poorly on the show's attention to detail. There's also the possibility that neither story is meant to be taken seriously. The Simpsons frequently makes jokes about its own continuity problems. Characters sometimes reference things that happened in previous episodes, then immediately contradict themselves. The show breaks its own rules constantly. Maybe the Snowball I contradiction is itself a meta-joke about how the show operates. The writers know they're contradicting themselves. They're doing it on purpose to mock the idea that anyone should expect consistency from a cartoon sitcom. The Snowball naming convention adds another layer to this mystery. Why do all the cats have to be named Snowball? When Snowball II dies, Lisa goes through Snowballs 3, IV, and V before settling on calling the new cat Snowball II again. The episode makes this explicit. Lisa looks at the new cat and says, it's technically Snowball V, but she's calling it Snowball II to keep things simple. The cat's collar even shows Snowball II with a V written underneath and crossed out. This suggests Lisa herself doesn't care about accuracy. She just wants a cat named Snowball tanked. This creates a philosophical question about identity and continuity. Is Snowball II really Snowball II if it's actually the fifth cat? Does the name matter more than the actual animal? When the Simpsons refer to their cat as Snowball II in later episodes, are they talking about the original Snowball II who died, or the replacement who took that name? The show never clarifies. It just keeps calling the cat Snowball II and expects viewers to go along with it. The same issue applies retroactively to Snowball I. If Lisa is willing to rename cats to avoid dealing with loss, maybe she did the same thing as a child. Maybe the original Snowball, I was actually Snowball IV, but young Lisa started numbering from I when she got the black cat. Maybe there were snowballs before the first Snowball, and we just don't know about them. The show hasn't explored this possibility, but the naming pattern suggests it could be true. What makes the Snowball I mystery particularly strange is how mundane it is compared to other Simpsons mysteries. Who Shot Mr. Burns was a massive two-part event. Springfield's location is a running gag. Homer's intelligence involves a crayon in his brain. These are big, dramatic mysteries. But how did Lisa's first cat die? That's such a small, sad detail. It shouldn't matter which version is correct. The cat is dead either way. Lisa mourned and moved on. Yet the contradiction bothers fans because it represents something larger about how the show works. The mystery also touches on how memory works in the Simpsons universe. Characters remember things differently in different episodes. Homer's childhood changes depending on which flashback episode you watch. Marge's backstory shifts. The timeline floats. Maybe the Snowball I contradiction is meant to reflect this. Lisa remembers her cat's death differently at different times. In one episode, she remembers a car accident. In another, she remembers drowning. Both memories feel true to her, even though they can't both have happened. This would make the contradiction a feature, not a bug. But this interpretation gives the show too much credit. The simpler explanation is that the writers forgot. Someone wrote the drowning line in season 15 without checking season 2. The script went through production without anyone catching the contradiction. The episode aired. And now both versions exist in the official canon because neither has been retracted or corrected. This happens in long-running shows. Continuity errors slip through. The Snowball I mystery is just one of many. Here's what we know for certain. Snowball I existed and died before the main series timeline. The Simpsons owned this cat before getting Snowball II. Lisa loved Snowball I. The season 2 episode, Old Money states Snowball I was hit by a car driven by Clovis, Mayor Quimby's nephew. The season 15 episode I, Annoyed Grunt, Bot states Snowball I drowned. Both episodes are official canon. Both stories cannot be simultaneously true. The show has never acknowledged this contradiction. Later episodes reference Snowball without clarifying which death story is accurate. What remains unresolved is which version of Snowball I's death is the real one. Whether the car accident story from season 2 should be considered the original canon. If the drowning story from season 15 retconned the earlier version. Whether both stories are meant to be taken seriously. If this is an intentional meta joke about continuity. Whether the writers simply forgot the earlier episode. Why no subsequent episode has clarified or addressed the contradiction? If we're supposed to care about continuity in a show that clearly doesn't prioritize it, the Snowball I mystery won't ever be solved because solving it would require the show to acknowledge its own inconsistency. The Simpsons would have to pick one version and declare it canon while admitting the other was an error. That's not how this show operates. The show moves forward, accumulating contradictions, letting different versions of events coexist in different episodes. Snowball. I both was and wasn't hit by a car. Snowball I both did and didn't drown. The cat died, and that's all we really know for sure. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to a mystery that's frustrated geography fans for over 30 years. Where exactly is Springfield located? Where is Springfield? The Simpson family lives in Springfield. The show takes place in Springfield. Every episode happens in Springfield. But which Springfield? There are dozens of cities named Springfield across the United States. The show has spent over 35 years deliberately hiding the answer. The writers plant contradictory clues in nearly every season. They show Springfield bordering states that can't possibly border each other. They reference climates that shouldn't exist in the same location. They've made it impossible to place Springfield on any real map. And this isn't sloppy writing. This is completely intentional. The name Springfield was chosen for exactly this reason. Matt Groening has explained in interviews that he picked Springfield because it's the most common city name in America. There are Springfields in over 30 different states. By choosing such a generic name, Groening ensured the show could theoretically take place anywhere. Every American viewer could imagine The Simpsons living in the state's Springfield. The ambiguity was built into the show's foundation from day one. But the show doesn't just stay vague. It actively contradicts itself with geographic clues that eliminate possibilities while simultaneously creating new ones. Episodes throughout the series show Springfield bordering different states. In the Season 7 episode Trash of the Titans, there's a sign welcoming people to Springfield, with the state name obscured by a tree branch. The camera deliberately avoids showing which state it is. In the Simpsons movie from 2007, there's a famous scene where the EPA tries to locate Springfield on a map. Just as they're about to point to the exact location, someone's thumb covers the spot. The movie literally hides Springfield's location from the audience as a visual gag. Other episodes are more specific but contradictory. In Behind the Laughter, which aired on the 21st of May, 2000, a narrator describes the Simpsons as a northern Kentucky family. This seems definitive. Springfield is in Kentucky. Mystery solved. Except later in the same episode, the narrator calls them a southern Missouri family in certain broadcast versions. Different regions got different state references. The show was trolling viewers by giving them different answers depending on where they lived. Geographic features around Springfield make no sense for any single location. The town is shown near an ocean with beaches in some episodes. Other episodes show it surrounded by mountains and forests. Desert landscapes appear in certain stories. Springfield has experienced blizzards, hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes. These weather patterns and geographic features don't occur together in any real American location. A town can't have both beach access and landlocked mountain terrain unless the geography is completely fictional. The bordering states change constantly. Springfield has been shown bordering Ohio, Nevada, Maine, and Kentucky in different episodes. These states don't border each other in reality. A city can't simultaneously border all of them. The show deliberately plants these impossible geographic relationships to prevent viewers from narrowing down the location. Every time someone thinks they've eliminated certain states, another episode adds contradictory evidence. Time zones create another problem. Episodes reference Springfield being in different time zones at different times. Some episodes show Springfield in the Eastern time zone. Others place it in Central or Pacific time. The sun rises and sets at times that don't match any consistent longitude. This makes it impossible to determine Springfield's east-west position on the map. Distance from major cities varies wildly. Springfield is sometimes portrayed as being near a major metropolitan area. Other times, it's completely isolated in rural America. Characters drive to various real American cities in time frames that make no geographic sense. In one episode, they drive to New York City in what seems like a few hours. In another, they're nowhere near any coast. The distances are elastic, changing based on what the plot requires. Local geography around Springfield includes impossibilities. The town has a gorge, a waterfall, a harbor, a mountain with a ski resort, a desert wasteland called the Alkali Flats, and a forest. Real American cities might have one or two of these features. Springfield has all of them within driving distance. This suggests the town exists in a compressed geographic space, where every American landscape type coexists regardless of logical placement. State-specific clues appear and disappear. Some episodes reference state laws that eliminate certain possibilities. For example, episodes have mentioned that Springfield is in a state where certain fireworks are legal or illegal, where specific marriage laws apply, or where particular tax codes exist. Fans have tried to cross-reference these legal details with real state laws to narrow down the location, but the legal references contradict each other across episodes, making this approach futile. The state capital appears in several episodes. Springfield is shown as being distinct from the state capital, meaning Springfield itself isn't the capital city, but episodes show different relationships to the capital. Sometimes the capital is nearby. Sometimes it's far away. The capital city is never named. and its distance from Springfield changes based on the episode's needs. Then, in 2012, Matt Groening gave what seemed like a definitive answer. In an interview with Smithsonian Magazine, Groening revealed that Springfield was inspired by Springfield, Oregon. He grew up in Portland, Oregon, and Springfield was the nearest town with that name. Groening said he named the fictional town after the real Oregon city. This appeared to solve the decades-long mystery. Springfield is in Oregon, case closed. Except it doesn't solve anything. Groening said the name was inspired by Springfield, Oregon. He didn't say the show's Springfield is located in Oregon. There's a crucial difference between inspiration and location. The real Springfield, Oregon influenced the naming choice, but that doesn't make the fictional Springfield canonically located in Oregon. Groening has also said in other interviews that Springfield is meant to be anywhere and everywhere. These statements contradict the Oregon reveal. The Oregon explanation also doesn't match the show's evidence. Springfield in the show has geographic features that don't exist in Oregon. The real Springfield, Oregon, is in the Willamette Valley with a specific climate and terrain. The show's Springfield has deserts, beaches, and geography that doesn't match Western Oregon at all. If the show's Springfield were actually in Oregon, many episodes would make no geographic sense, even within the show's own established visuals. Furthermore, episodes continue to plant contradictory clues after the 2012 Oregon reveal. The writers didn't suddenly start making Springfield consistent with an Oregon location. New episodes still reference impossible geography. The show continues to hide and obscure the state location in visual gags. If Groening's statement was meant to be the official answer, the show itself doesn't respect it. This suggests the Oregon answer was either Groening sharing a personal creative backstory rather than establishing canon, or it was another misdirect. Groening has a history of giving contradictory answers to fan questions. He seems to enjoy keeping mysteries alive rather than definitively solving them. The Oregon statement might be true in terms of where the name came from, but intentionally misleading about where the show actually takes place. The deliberate ambiguity serves several purposes. It makes the show universal. Every American viewer can relate to Springfield because it could be their Springfield. The show avoids alienating viewers from specific regions by never committing to one state. A viewer in Maine and a viewer in Nevada can both claim The Simpsons as their neighbors. The ambiguity also protects the show's timeless quality. If Springfield were definitively placed in a specific state, episodes would need to reflect that state's actual laws, culture, and geography. This would limit storytelling options. By keeping Springfield's location vague, the writers can use whatever geographic features or legal situations the story requires. The town becomes a blank canvas that can accommodate any American setting. The mystery has become a running gag. The show references its own geographic impossibilities. Characters occasionally mention not knowing what state they're in. Visual gags deliberately obscure state names on signs and maps. The writers are in on the joke. They know fans are trying to solve this. They enjoy planting false clues and contradictions. The mystery itself has become part of the show's identity. Some fans have created elaborate theories, trying to reconcile all the contradictions. One theory suggests Springfield exists in a fictional state, not found on real maps. Another proposes that Springfield is located at the geographic center of the United States, allowing it to access features from all surrounding regions. These theories are creative but unsupported by the show. The simpler explanation is that Springfield's location is deliberately impossible. The show will never officially place Springfield in a specific state. Doing so would end one of its longest-running jokes. The mystery of Springfield's location is more valuable than any answer could be. It keeps fans engaged, arguing, and analyzing. It allows the show unlimited geographic flexibility, and it prevents the show from being tied to any one real-world location that might limit its storytelling. Springfield exists everywhere and nowhere. It's every American small town and no American small town. The location isn't hidden because the creators haven't decided. The location is hidden because revealing it would diminish what makes Springfield work as a setting. The mystery is an answer. The confusion is intentional. and after more than 3 decades, fans still can't pinpoint where the Simpsons actually live. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the mystery of the most famous baby in television, why hasn't Maggie Simpson spoken? Maggie Simpson has been 1 year old for over 35 years. She sucks on a pacifier in almost every scene. She doesn't attend school. She doesn't have friends her own age. She communicates through gestures, facial expressions, and the occasional gunshot. And she almost never speaks. Viewers know her as the silent baby of the Simpson family, the one who observes everything but says nothing. This characterization held true for years, making one particular moment in the show's history incredibly powerful. When Maggie finally spoke, it became one of the most emotional scenes The Simpsons ever produced. But that moment creates a mystery. If Maggie can speak, why does she stay silent? The episode Lisa's First Word aired on the 3rd of December, 1992, during Season 4. This episode tells the story of how Lisa learned to talk as a toddler. The narrative frames Lisa's language development through flashbacks, showing the Simpson family when Bart was a baby and Lisa was just born. Young Bart's first word was, "Ay caramba," which he said while walking in on Homer and Marge. Lisa's first word is the focus of the episode. Homer desperately wants Lisa's first word to be, "Daddy." He tries everything to get her to say it. He spends days coaching her, pointing at himself, repeating, "Daddy," over and over. But Lisa's first word ends up being, "Bart." She says her brother's name first, disappointing Homer. The episode treats this as a bittersweet moment. Homer wanted to be the first word, but Lisa chose her brother instead. The flashback story wraps up showing how language developed in the Simpson household. Then the episode returns to the present day. The family is tucking Maggie into her crib. Homer looks at his baby daughter and softly says, "Good night, Maggie." He turns off the light and leaves the room. Then Maggie removes her pacifier. She looks directly at the audience and clearly says, "Daddy." This moment shocked viewers. Maggie spoke. The baby who never talks said a complete word in perfect clarity. And that word was "Daddy," the word Homer had desperately wanted Lisa to say years earlier. Maggie gave Homer what he'd always wanted, even though he didn't hear it. The scene was voiced by Elizabeth Taylor, who delivered the single word with touching simplicity. The episode ends immediately after Maggie speaks, letting that moment be the final beat. Lisa's first word became one of the most celebrated episodes in Simpsons history, partly because of that ending. The emotional payoff of Maggie saying, "Daddy," when no one could hear her resonated with audiences. It suggested Maggie was more aware and capable than anyone realized. She could speak. She chose not to. And when she did speak, it was for a moment of pure love directed at her father, even though he'd never know. This established Maggie as able to speak, but choosing silence. The implication was that Maggie would eventually talk when she was ready, just like Bart and Lisa had. Maggie saying, "Daddy," was presented as her first word, suggesting more words would follow as she developed. The episode treated this as a natural progression of child development shown in the Simpson family timeline. Except Maggie never spoke again in regular episodes for years. The show returned to portraying her as completely non-verbal. She went back to sucking her pacifier and communicating through actions rather than words. The powerful moment from Lisa's first word became an isolated incident. Maggie was silent again, as if the daddy scene never happened. The show reset her to pre-speaking status. Then other episodes started contradicting the established first word. In the season 16 episode, 4 Great Women and a Manicure, which aired on the 10th of May, 2009, there's a segment parodying Hamlet. Maggie is portrayed as Hamlet in this segment. She speaks complete sentences throughout the parody. She delivers lines, has conversations, and expresses complex thoughts. This isn't a baby saying her first word. This is a baby speaking fluently, like an adult. The segment treats Maggie as fully verbal and capable of sophisticated communication. The Simpsons movie, released in 2007, includes another Maggie speaking moment. Near the end of the film, after the family has saved Springfield, Maggie removes her pacifier and says, Sequel, in a clear, questioning tone. This was voiced by Nancy Cartwright, who also voices Bart. The movie treats this as a joke about Hollywood sequels, with Maggie breaking the fourth wall. But it also confirms that Maggie can speak at least single words when the story calls for it. Treehouse of horror episodes feature Maggie speaking multiple times. In various Halloween specials, Maggie has full dialogue. She's been voiced by different actors in these segments, including James Earl Jones. In one segment, Maggie speaks with James Earl Jones's deep, dramatic voice, creating a jarring contrast between the baby's appearance and the adult male voice. These Treehouse episodes aren't considered canon by most fans, but they still show Maggie as capable of speech. The question becomes whether Maggie can speak or whether these moments are exceptions to her characterization. If "daddy" was her first word in Lisa's first word, then the Four Great Women segment showing her speaking full sentences makes no sense chronologically. That episode aired 17 years after Lisa's first word. In those 17 years of showtime, Maggie hasn't aged a day. She's still 1 year old. A 1-year-old who said Daddy shouldn't suddenly be able to deliver Shakespearean monologues. The show never addresses this inconsistency. Episodes continue to portray Maggie as nonverbal in most situations, while occasionally giving her dialogue when it serves a joke or story. There's no explanation for when Maggie can speak versus when she can't. The show treats each instance of Maggie speaking as isolated, not building toward any development or explanation. Some fans theorize that Maggie is actually highly intelligent and capable of speech, but chooses to remain silent. This would explain why she can speak complex sentences in certain episodes, but stays quiet in others. Maggie observing silently while understanding everything around her makes her a more interesting character than a baby who simply can't talk yet. This theory suggests Maggie's silence is strategic. She gains advantages by having adults underestimate her capabilities. Evidence supports this interpretation. Maggie has demonstrated remarkable intelligence and competence throughout the series. She's escaped from daycare using elaborate plans. She's defended herself and others from danger. In the episode A Streetcar Named Marge, Maggie organizes a rebellion at the Ayn Rand School for Tots to retrieve the baby's pacifiers. She demonstrated leadership and tactical thinking. A baby this capable probably can speak, but chooses not to. The pacifier might be key to understanding Maggie's silence. In almost every scene, Maggie has her pacifier in her mouth. She's deeply attached to it. The pacifier could physically prevent her from speaking clearly, or it could represent her desire to remain in a baby state. As long as she has the pacifier, she doesn't need to speak. The few times Maggie speaks, she typically removes the pacifier first, suggesting she's capable of speech when she chooses to give up the pacifier. But this explanation breaks down when considering episodes where Maggie loses her pacifier temporarily and still doesn't speak. There are scenes where her pacifier is gone and she remains silent. If removing the pacifier enabled speech, she should talk in these moments. She doesn't. This suggests the pacifier isn't the only factor in her silence. The show's floating timeline complicates Maggie's speech development. Maggie has been 1 year old since 1989. Most children begin speaking simple words between 12 and 18 months. Maggie is within the age range where speech would be developmentally appropriate. But because she never ages, she never reaches the point where speaking would be expected. She exists in permanent baby state, where she could speak or not speak, and both would be developmentally normal. Lisa's first word presented daddy as Maggie's first word, implying this was a significant developmental milestone. But subsequent episodes ignore this milestone. They don't build on Maggie learning to talk. They reset her to pre-verbal state. This makes the Lisa's first word ending less meaningful retroactively. If that wasn't actually Maggie's first word, or if it didn't lead to more speech development, then the emotional impact of that scene diminishes. The contradiction matters because Lisa's first word is one of the show's most beloved episodes. Fans remember the daddy moment as genuinely moving. Learning that Maggie speaks fluently in other episodes undermines that memory. If Maggie could already speak complex sentences, then saying daddy wasn't her first word or a developmental breakthrough. It was just another instance of occasional speech from a character who can talk, but usually doesn't. Writers have never clarified the rules around Maggie's speech. There's no official statement explaining when she can or can't talk. The show operates on whatever serves the story. If an episode needs Maggie to speak, she speaks. If an episode needs her silent, she's silent. Continuity about her speech capability doesn't factor into the decision. This creates a character mystery rather than a plot mystery. The question isn't about external facts, but about Maggie's internal characterization. Is she a baby who can't speak yet? A baby who chooses not to speak? Or a baby whose speech capability changes depending on which writer is working on that episode? All three interpretations have evidence supporting them from different episodes. Maggie's voice mystery reflects how The Simpsons handles character development in general. Characters don't grow or change permanently. They exist in a static state that can be temporarily disrupted for individual episodes, but always resets. Maggie speaking in one episode doesn't mean she'll speak in the next. Each episode treats characters as starting from a baseline, regardless of what happened before. Development doesn't stick. What we know for certain is limited. Maggie said "daddy" in Lisa's first word, voiced by Elizabeth Taylor. That episode aired on the 3rd of December, 1992. Maggie said "sequel" in the Simpsons movie in 2007. Maggie has spoken full sentences in 4 Great Women and a Manicure and multiple Treehouse of horror episodes. James Earl Jones has voiced Maggie in at least one segment. Nancy Cartwright voiced her movie line. The show typically portrays Maggie as nonverbal with a pacifier. The speaking moments are exceptions to her usual characterization. Whether "daddy" remains her canonical first word given later episodes showing her speaking earlier or more fluently is unclear. The show hasn't established rules for when Maggie can speak. Treehouse of horror episodes might not count as canon, which would eliminate some of her speaking moments. But regular episodes still contradict each other about her speech capability. The mystery isn't whether Maggie can speak. She demonstrably can. The mystery is why the show can't decide when or how she speaks. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Homer's intelligence mystery, the crayon in his brain. Homer Simpson is stupid. That's his defining characteristic. He works at a nuclear power plant despite understanding almost nothing about nuclear physics or safety protocols. He strangles his son when frustrated. He causes disasters through incompetence. He says "doh" constantly because he's always making mistakes. For over a decade of episodes, Homer's low intelligence was just accepted as part of who he is. He's the lovable idiot dad. That was the character. Then season 12 revealed something that recontextualizes every episode that came before it. Homer isn't naturally stupid. Homer has a crayon lodged in his brain that's been suppressing his intelligence since childhood. The episode Homer aired on the 7th of January 2001. The title is a deliberate misspelling of Homer, reflecting his impaired mental state. The episode begins with the Simpson family visiting an animation convention. While there, Homer takes an intelligence test meant for children. He scores extremely poorly, confirming what everyone already knows about his cognitive abilities. But the test administrator notices something unusual in Homer's brain scan. There's a foreign object lodged in Homer's frontal lobe. That object is a crayon. Specifically, it's one of the crayons Homer shoved up his nose as a child. The episode shows a flashback to young Homer as a kid. He's pushing crayons into his nostrils for no apparent reason, other than being a stupid child doing something dangerous. One crayon went so far up that it penetrated into his brain. It's been there ever since, pressing against brain tissue and affecting his cognitive function. The doctor explains that removing the crayon could significantly improve Homer's intelligence. This revelation stuns the family. Homer's stupidity isn't natural. It's caused by a foreign object that could theoretically be removed. His entire personality, his life choices, his failures. All of them might be the result of childhood brain damage rather than his actual nature. The family encourages Homer to have the crayon surgically removed. The surgery happens. Dr. Hibbert successfully extracts the crayon from Homer's brain. The change is immediate and dramatic. Homer wakes up from the procedure noticeably different. He speaks more articulately. He uses vocabulary he's never used before. He demonstrates logical thinking and problem-solving abilities. Homer isn't just slightly smarter. He's actually intelligent. The episode shows how much Homer changes with normal brain function. He becomes interested in art and culture. He attends film screenings and discusses cinema with intellectual depth. He reads books and comprehends complex ideas. He engages in political discussions. He even starts building relationships with people based on shared intellectual interests, rather than just drinking buddies at Moe's. Most significantly, his IQ test results show a massive improvement. With the crayon removed, Homer tests well above average intelligence. But being intelligent makes Homer miserable. He starts noticing problems everywhere. He sees inefficiencies at the nuclear power plant that endanger everyone's safety. He recognizes that Mr. Burns is an exploitative employer. He understands how many of Springfield's institutions are corrupt or incompetent. Intelligence doesn't bring Homer happiness. It brings awareness of everything wrong with his world. Homer's newfound intelligence also alienates him from his friends and family. Barney, Lenny, Carl, and Moe don't understand intellectual Homer. They miss the old Homer who laughed at dumb jokes and didn't analyze everything. Lisa initially enjoys having an intelligent father who can discuss books and ideas with her. But even Lisa realizes this new Homer doesn't quite fit in their family dynamic. Marge struggles with the change too. She married Homer knowing who he was. This new version of her husband is almost a stranger. The breaking point comes when Homer writes a detailed report about safety violations at the nuclear power plant. His analysis is thorough and damning. It proves the plant endangers Springfield's citizens daily. Homer expects people to be grateful for this information. Instead, he's attacked for it. His report threatens jobs. It makes the town face uncomfortable truths. People blame Homer for causing problems, rather than thanking him for identifying them. Homer realizes that being intelligent in a town full of ignorant people is torture. He's isolated, unhappy, and rejected. Intelligence hasn't improved his life. It's ruined it. He makes a devastating decision. Homer asks Dr. Hibbert to put the crayon back in his brain. He wants to return to his previous level of intelligence, even knowing that means choosing brain damage over normal cognitive function. Marge discovers what Homer is planning. She tries to stop him. She argues that intelligence is valuable, that being smart is better than being stupid regardless of social consequences. Homer writes her a letter explaining his choice. The letter is eloquent and heartbreaking. Homer describes how being intelligent showed him everything wrong with the world, and how powerless he is to fix it. He explains that ignorance is genuinely bliss in his case. He'd rather be happy and stupid than miserable and smart. The letter ends with Homer acknowledging that once the crayon is back in, he won't remember writing it or being intelligent. He tells Marge to keep the letter to understand that this was his informed choice. He's choosing stupidity with full knowledge of what he's giving up. This makes the decision tragic rather than foolish. Homer knows what he's losing. He is losing himself on purpose. Dr. Hibbert reinserts the crayon. Homer immediately reverts to his normal behavior. He forgets the entire experience of being intelligent. He's back to being the Homer everyone knows. The episode ends with Marge reading Homer's letter alone, crying, knowing her husband chose brain damage over the pain of awareness. This episode should have fundamentally changed how we view Homer Simpson. Every previous episode showed Homer doing stupid things, making terrible choices, failing at basic tasks. The standard interpretation was that Homer is naturally unintelligent. He's just not smart. That's his character. But Homer reveals this was never true. Homer has been brain damaged since childhood. Every stupid thing Homer did in 250 plus previous episodes happened because he had a crayon pressing on his frontal lobe. This raises profound questions about responsibility and identity. When Homer strangled Bart in dozens of episodes, was that abusive parenting or the action of someone with impaired impulse control due to brain damage? When Homer caused nuclear meltdowns through incompetence, was that negligence or disability? When he forgot anniversaries, disappointed his family, or failed at jobs? Were those moral failings or symptoms of a medical condition? The episode forces us to reconsider whether we should pity Homer rather than laugh at him. He's been disabled this entire time. His stupidity isn't a personality trait. It's a disability caused by childhood self-injury. The show has been making comedy out of a brain-damaged man's struggles for over a decade. That's a darker interpretation than the series intended, but Homer makes it unavoidable. Then the show completely ignores this revelation. Later episodes never reference the crayon. They don't treat Homer as someone who chose brain damage. They don't acknowledge that he was briefly intelligent. The show resets to baseline Homer without addressing what Homer revealed. This creates massive continuity questions about whether the crayon is still there. If Homer still has the crayon in his brain, then his current stupidity is explained but also tragic. He's living with a disability that could be cured, but he chose not to cure it. If the crayon was removed permanently at some point, then Homer's continued stupidity means he's naturally unintelligent after all, contradicting the episode's entire premise. Either way, the show never clarifies. The identity question is most troubling. Who is the real Homer? Is real Homer the intelligent man who existed briefly with the crayon removed? Or is real Homer the person he's been for most of his life, shaped by the crayon's presence? The intelligent Homer made an informed choice to return to stupidity. Does that choice define him more than the stupidity itself? These are philosophical questions about identity and authenticity that the show raised but never answered. Homer is one of the darkest episodes The Simpsons ever produced, disguised as a standard comedy episode. It revealed something about Homer that can't be taken back. Even if later episodes ignore it, fans can't unknow what they learned. Every time Homer does something stupid after Homer, there's an implicit understanding that he chose this. He could be smarter. He decided not to be. That changes everything about how we watch the show, whether the writers acknowledge it or not. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Springfield's founding father mystery. Was Jebediah Springfield a fraud? Every town needs a hero. Springfield has Jebediah Springfield, the legendary founder whose statue stands in the town square. According to local history, Jebediah was a noble pioneer who tamed the wilderness and established the town with courage and virtue. His famous quote, "A noble spirit embiggens the smallest man," is taught to school children. His legacy defines Springfield's identity. Citizens revere him as the embodiment of everything good about their community. But in the season 7 episode, Lisa the Iconoclast, which aired on the 18th of February 1996, Lisa Simpson discovered evidence that destroys this entire mythology. Jebediah Springfield was a fraud, a murderer, and a liar. Lisa's discovery begins with a school assignment. She's writing an essay about Jebediah for the town's bicentennial celebration. While researching at the Springfield Historical Society, Lisa finds a confession hidden inside the town founder's iconic silver tongue. The silver tongue is a prosthetic that replaced Jebediah's real tongue, which he allegedly lost in a fight with a wild buffalo. The prosthetic has been preserved as a historical artifact. Lisa examines it closely and discovers a small compartment containing a rolled-up document. The document is a confession written by Jebediah himself. According to the confession, Jebediah Springfield never existed. The man's real name was Hans Sprungfeld, and he was a vicious pirate. The confession describes Sprungfeld's crimes in detail. He murdered settlers. He engaged in acts of piracy and theft. Most shockingly, he attempted to assassinate George Washington. The attack on Washington is described in the confession with specific details about when and where it happened. Sprungfeld attacked the first president with a rusty hatchet during a public appearance. The confession explains how Sprungfeld evaded capture and eventually settled in the area that would become Springfield. He changed his name, created a false identity, and invented the noble pioneer mythology to hide his criminal past. The silver tongue wasn't lost fighting a buffalo. Sprungfeld cut out his own tongue to prevent anyone from recognizing his voice. This act of self-mutilation allowed him to completely reinvent himself. The hero Springfield celebrates is actually a villain who escaped justice through deception. Lisa presents this evidence to the Springfield Historical Society. She meets with Hollis Hurlbut, the town historian voiced by guest star Donald Sutherland. Hurlbut examines the confession and confirms its authenticity. The handwriting matches other known Springfield documents. The paper and ink date to the correct time period. The historical details in the confession align with verified events. The confession is genuine. Hans Sprungfeld, the murderous pirate, founded Springfield under a false identity. Hurlbut immediately understands the implications. If this information becomes public, Springfield's entire founding mythology collapses. The town's identity is built on Jebediah's nobility. Destroying that narrative would devastate the community. Hurlbut begs Lisa not to reveal the truth. He argues that the town is happier believing in a noble founder, even if that belief is based on lies. Lisa refuses. She believes truth matters more than comforting fiction. Lisa attempts to share her discovery with Springfield citizens. She plans to reveal the truth during the bicentennial celebration. She'll expose Jebediah as a fraud in front of the entire town. But she faces opposition from multiple directions. The town doesn't want to hear that their hero was actually a villain. People attack Lisa for trying to destroy Springfield's heritage. They call her unpatriotic and disrespectful. The town historian could support her claims, but Hurlbut remains silent, prioritizing the town's happiness over historical accuracy. Even Lisa's own family doesn't fully support her quest for truth. Homer dismisses her research. Marge worries about the social consequences of Lisa alienating herself from the community. Bart doesn't care either way. Lisa stands alone with proof that would shatter Springfield's foundational myth, and nobody wants her to share it. The episode builds toward Lisa's planned revelation at the bicentennial ceremony. She has the confession. She has expert verification. She's prepared to tell Springfield that their founder was a murderous pirate who attacked George Washington. This moment would rewrite the town's history and force everyone to confront an uncomfortable truth about the lies they've been taught. Then Lisa changes her mind. Standing at the podium during the ceremony, Lisa looks out at the crowd. She sees her neighbors celebrating together. She sees children dressed as Jebediah for the parade. She sees the joy and community spirit the celebration has created. And she realizes that destroying this would hurt real people for the sake of correcting a historical lie about someone who died over a century ago. Lisa chooses to suppress the truth. Lisa gives a speech defending Jebediah Springfield as a hero. She praises his legacy and contributions to the town. She doesn't mention Hans Sprungfeld or the confession. She protects the myth, knowing it's false, because she decides the town's happiness matters more than exposing a long-dead criminal's fraud. This represents a massive shift in Lisa's character. She's the Simpson family's moral center, the one who always stands for truth and justice. But in this moment, she chooses a noble lie over harsh truth. The episode never definitively confirms whether the confession was authentic. We see Lisa find it, we see Hurlbut verify it, the evidence appears legitimate, but the show leaves room for doubt. Maybe the confession itself was a forgery, and Lisa protected a myth that was actually true. Maybe Sprungfeld wrote a false confession for unknown reasons. The episode doesn't explicitly confirm that Jebediah was really Hans Sprungfeld. It only confirms that Lisa believed he was, and chose not to reveal it. Subsequent episodes treat Jebediah as a hero without irony. The statue remains in the town square. Citizens continue to revere him. Lisa never brings up the confession again. The show resets to treating Jebediah's mythology as Springfield's accepted history. Whether Lisa's discovery was real, or whether the truth stays buried forever, remains ambiguous. The ethical dimensions of Lisa's choice create the real mystery. Was she right to hide the truth? Does a community deserve comforting lies if those lies promote social cohesion and happiness? Is historical accuracy more important than present-day well-being? Lisa made a utilitarian calculation that suppressing truth would cause less harm than revealing it. But that calculation requires accepting that some lies are justified. The episode also questions whether the truth even matters at this point. Hans Sprungfeld, if that was really Jebediah's identity, has been dead for generations. His crimes happened in the distant past. The Jebediah mythology has shaped Springfield for over a century. Whether the mythology is based on a real person or a false identity, the effects are identical. Springfield became what it is either way. Does it matter if the founding father was actually a villain, if the town turned out fine? Lisa's decision to protect Springfield's myth over revealing historical truth remains one of the show's most morally complex moments. She chose pragmatism over principle. She valued her community's happiness over her personal integrity. And she made this choice with full knowledge of what she was covering up. That makes Lisa complicit in perpetuating a lie, which contradicts everything her character usually represents. The mystery isn't whether Jebediah was a fraud. The mystery is whether Lisa made the right choice keeping that fraud secret. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to a character identity mystery that spans decades. What is Moe's real name? Moe Sislak owns Moe's Tavern. He's the surly bartender who serves Homer and his friends. He's been part of Springfield since the show began. His name appears on the sign outside his bar. Official documents and episodes list him as Moe Sislak. That's who he is. Except the show has also called him Morris Sislak and Moammer Morris Sislak, and possibly other names entirely depending on which episode you're watching. Over hundreds of episodes, The Simpsons has given Moe multiple contradictory first names, middle names, and even varying ethnic origins. The show cannot keep its own character's identity straight. This isn't a nickname situation or a preference for shortened names. This is a genuine mystery about what Moe's actual legal name is, and the show provides no consistent answer. The most common reference throughout the series is simply Moe Sislak. The last name spelling Zyslak appears consistently. Episodes that show his bar's liquor license, his mailbox, or other official documents usually spell the surname this way. The first name Moe is what everyone calls him every episode. For most of the show's run, viewers accepted Moe Sislak as his full legal name. He's Moe. His bar is Moe's Tavern. There's no mystery. Then episodes started revealing Moe's full first name. In the season 18 episode Mona Lisa, which aired on the 19th of November 2006, Moe's complete name is revealed during a poetry reading. The episode focuses on Moe secretly being a talented poet. When his work is published and he gives a reading, he's introduced with his full name. According to this episode, Moe's first name is Morris Sislak. This makes sense. Moe is a common nickname for Morris. The episode treats this revelation as straightforward. His name is Morris. He goes by Moe. Mystery solved. But other episodes contradict this. The season 20 episode Gone, Maggie, Gone, which aired on the 15th of March 2009, includes a scene where Moe's full name appears on official documentation. The name shown is Moammer Morris Sislak. Not just Morris. Moammer Morris. This adds a previously unknown first name before Morris. According to this episode, Morris isn't his first name at all. It's his middle name. His first name is Moammer. He goes by his middle name as a nickname, and that middle name gets shortened to Moe. The Moammer revelation creates immediate problems. This is clearly referencing Muammar Gaddafi, the Libyan dictator. The spelling is nearly identical. The episode aired in 2009 when Gaddafi was still alive and ruling Libya. Naming Moe after a dictator seems like an odd choice for the character. But more importantly, it contradicts what Mona Lisa established just 3 years earlier. That episode presented Morris as his first name. Gone Maggie. Gone presents Morris as his middle name with Moammer as his first name. Both can't be correct. The contradictions extend beyond just his given name. Episodes have shown Moe with varying ethnic backgrounds that should determine his name's origin. Some episodes present Moe as Italian. He's referenced having Italian heritage, speaks some Italian phrases, and has relatives with Italian names. If Moe is Italian, his real name might be something like Maurizio, or another Italian name that could be shortened to Moe. Other episodes suggest Moe is Dutch. He's mentioned Dutch ancestry and been connected to Dutch cultural elements. Dutch naming conventions would produce different names than Italian ones. There are also episodes implying Mo has Russian or Eastern European heritage. The surname Zislak sounds Polish or Slavic. Episodes have referenced Mo's connection to Eastern European culture and traditions. This would suggest Morris or Moammar aren't his birth names at all, but Americanized versions of a name from his family's original language. The show never clarifies which ethnic background is accurate, which means any of these name origins could be correct, or all of them could be wrong. Birth certificates and legal documents shown in various episodes compound the confusion. When official paperwork appears on screen showing Mo's information, the names vary. Some documents match the Morris version. Others show different names entirely. These aren't subtle differences. They're completely different first names and what should be the same person's legal documentation. Either Mo has multiple birth certificates with different names, or the show's writers aren't checking continuity between episodes. The pattern extends to Mo's entire backstory beyond just his name. Mo's origin story changes constantly. He's been an orphan, a child with living parents, and someone with various family configurations across different episodes. His childhood location shifts. His early career paths differ. Even basic facts like whether he was born in America or immigrated vary. If the show can't maintain consistency about Mo's entire life history, it makes sense they can't maintain consistency about something as basic as his name. Some episodes treat Mo's identity confusion as a running joke. Characters occasionally reference not knowing Mo's real name or background. Mo himself sometimes seems uncertain about his own history. This could be the writers acknowledging the continuity problems and making them part of the comedy. Or it could be coincidence, with different writers independently deciding to make jokes about Mo's mysterious past, without realizing they're creating genuine continuity errors. The Flaming Mo episode from Season 3 introduced one of Mo's most famous moments when he steals Homer's drink recipe and renames it the Flaming Mo. The episode focuses on Mo's tavern becoming successful after he appropriates someone else's creation. There's potential significance in Mo stealing an identity for his drink, considering his own identity seems fluid throughout the series. If Mo is willing to claim someone else's recipe as his own, maybe he's claimed someone else's identity as his own. This is pure speculation, but the parallel exists. Voice actor Hank Azaria has played Mo since the character's inception. Azaria has given Mo a distinctive, gravelly voice that makes the character instantly recognizable. In interviews, Azaria has discussed developing Mo's voice and personality, but hasn't addressed the name contradictions. If anyone would know Mo's real name, it would be the actor who's voiced him for over 3 decades. But Azaria hasn't clarified which version is correct, suggesting either he doesn't know or the show intentionally keeps it ambiguous. The writers haven't issued any official statements explaining Mo's name confusion. There's no DVD commentary where someone says, "We know we've given him different names, here's why." The contradictions exist without acknowledgement from the creative team. This suggests the inconsistency wasn't intentional, but rather accumulated through decades of different writers working on different episodes without maintaining strict continuity. Mo's character has always been somewhat mysterious beyond just his name. He has a dark past that's referenced but never fully explained. He's attempted suicide multiple times. He's been involved in organized crime. He's had secret identities and hidden talents. The character is defined by layers of concealed history. The name confusion fits this pattern. Mo is someone with secrets, and maybe his real name is one of them. There's also the possibility that Mo legally changed his name at some point, which would explain documents showing different names. If he was born Moammar Morris Sislak, but legally changed it to Morris Sislak, or just Mo Sislak, then both names could be legitimate at different points in his life. But the show has never depicted Mo changing his name legally. Episodes show different names, as if they've always been his names, not as if he changed from one to another. The ethnic background shifts make the name confusion worse. Italian names, Dutch names, and Slavic names follow different patterns. If Mo's heritage keeps changing, his birth name should change with it. A character of Italian descent wouldn't be born Moammar. That's an Arabic name. The name Muammar only makes sense if Mo has Middle Eastern or North African heritage, which some episodes imply, but others contradict. The show wants Mo to be ethnically ambiguous, but that ambiguity creates naming impossibilities. Comparing Mo's name inconsistency to other characters shows how unusual this is. Homer is always Homer J. Simpson. Marge is always Marjorie Bouvier Simpson. Bart is Bartholomew Jojo Simpson. These names stay consistent across hundreds of episodes. Minor characters also maintain name consistency. Even characters with less screen time than Mo have stable identities. The show manages to remember everyone else's names correctly. Why can't it remember Mo's? One theory is that Mo's identity confusion reflects his mental state. He's deeply depressed, has attempted suicide, and clearly suffers from psychological issues. Maybe Mo's inconsistent sense of self manifests as literal identity confusion. He doesn't know who he is, so his name changes based on his current mental state or how he sees himself in different situations. This would be a surprisingly dark explanation for a continuity error, but it fits with Mo's established characterization as someone struggling with identity and purpose. Another possibility is that Mo is hiding from something or someone. Criminals often use multiple names to evade law enforcement. Mo has connections to organized crime in several episodes. Maybe the different names represent different identities Mo has used while evading criminal consequences. Birth certificates with different names could be forgeries. Legal documents might show aliases rather than his real name. This would mean we still don't know Mo's actual birth name, because everything shown has been false identity paperwork. The show treats Mo's character as fundamentally unknowable in many ways. His love life is a disaster. His business barely survives. His friendships are shallow. His past is mysterious. His future is uncertain. Having his name also be uncertain fits this pattern of Mo being a character defined by instability and mystery. Maybe the show doesn't want us to know Mo's real name because knowing it would make him too defined, too solid, too real. Keeping his name ambiguous keeps his character appropriately slippery. What we can confirm is limited. The surname Sislak appears consistently across episodes. Everyone calls him Mo. The episode Mo na Lisa identifies him as Morris Sislak. The episode Gone, Maggie Gone identifies him as Muammar Morris Sislak. Other episodes suggest varying ethnic backgrounds. Birth certificates and legal documents show contradictory information. Voice actor Hank Azaria has never clarified which name is correct. The writers haven't explained the contradictions. Subsequent episodes continue to reference Mo without establishing a definitive name. The mystery of Mo's real name probably won't be solved because the show doesn't prioritize this kind of continuity. Each episode treats Mo's identity however that particular writer needs it. If a joke works better with him being Italian, he's Italian that episode. If another joke requires Dutch heritage, he's Dutch. If a scene needs his name to be Muammar, it's Muammar. The show serves individual episode comedy over maintaining character consistency. Mo's identity is whatever the script needs it to be. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the biggest structural mystery in Simpsons history. Why don't the characters age? The Simpsons premiered on the 17th of December, 1989. Bart Simpson was 10 years old in that first episode. Lisa was 8, Maggie was 1, Homer and Marge were in their mid-30s. The show is now in its 36th season. Bart is still 10 years old. Lisa is still 8. Maggie is still 1. Homer and Marge are still in their mid-30s. The characters haven't aged a single day in over 3.5 decades. Meanwhile, the world around them has completely transformed. Technology has evolved from rotary phones to smartphones. Presidents have changed. Pop culture references update constantly. Historical events that were current when episodes aired are now decades in the past. The show exists in a permanent present where the characters stay frozen while reality marches forward. This creates the floating timeline, a narrative structure where a show's backstory continuously updates to maintain a consistent relationship to the present. Homer and Marge's origin story must constantly shift, because they need to have been teenagers roughly 25 years before whatever year an episode airs. When the show started in 1989, flashbacks to their youth showed them in the 1960s and early 1970s. Episodes from the 1990s depicted Homer and Marge as teenagers during the disco era. By the 2000s, their teenage years had moved to the 1980s. Recent episodes placed their youth in the 1990s. The same characters have now lived through multiple different decades as teenagers. The show's early flashback episodes established specific details about Homer and Marge's past. The Season 2 episode, The Way We Was, which aired on the 31st of January 1991, showed how Homer and Marge met in high school in 1974. The episode included specific 1970s cultural references, fashion, and music. Marge had an afro hairstyle. Homer wore bell-bottoms. They attended a screening of The Towering Inferno, a movie that came out in 1974. The episode grounded their relationship in a specific historical moment. Other early flashbacks maintained this 1970s setting. Episodes showed Homer and Marge getting married in the early 1980s. Bart was born around 1980 or 1981 based on these timelines. The math worked if you accepted that the show was depicting the Simpson family as they existed in 1989 when the series began. Homer was born in the 1950s, grew up in the 1960s and 70s, married Marge in the 1980s, and had kids. The timeline was linear and consistent with the family existing in late 1980s America, but maintaining this timeline became impossible as the show continued. By 2000, if Homer was still the same age but born in the 1950s, he would have to be nearly 50 years old. The show couldn't have Homer aging while Bart stayed 10. The only solution was to shift Homer's birth year forward. Episodes started showing Homer being born in the 1960s instead of the 1950s. His teenage years moved from the 1970s to the 1980s. The backstory rewrote itself to keep Homer perpetually in his late 30s. The most controversial retcon came in the season 19 episode, That 90s Show, which aired on the 27th of January 2008. This episode completely rewrote Homer and Marge's origin story. Instead of meeting in high school in 1974, they met in the 1990s. Homer was in a grunge band. Marge had long, straight hair instead of her iconic beehive. They lived together before marriage. The episode updated their entire relationship to fit a 1990s time frame instead of the 1970s one established in The Way We Was. Fans hated this. That 90s show contradicted over 15 years of established continuity. The Way We Was a beloved episode that many fans considered definitive for Homer and Marge's relationship. Seeing that origin story completely rewritten felt like the show was erasing its own history. The backlash was intense. Fans accused the writers of disrespecting the show's legacy and ignoring continuity for the sake of keeping the timeline current. The show's response to this criticism was essentially that every episode exists in a sliding present. Al Jen, the showrunner, has explained in interviews that The Simpsons operates on the assumption that the characters are always living in whatever year the episode airs. If an episode airs in 2008, then Homer and Marge were teenagers 25 years earlier, which would be the 1980s. If an episode airs in 2024, they were teenagers in the 1990s. The show doesn't pretend to have strict continuity across decades. Each season exists in its own version of the present. This floating timeline makes it impossible to determine how long the Simpson family has actually existed in their universe. Have they been a family for 1 year, 5 years, 20 years? The show provides no answer. Bart has been in 4th grade for 36 seasons. He should have graduated high school by now. Lisa has been 8 years old, long enough that she should be middle-aged. Maggie has been a baby for longer than most humans live. Time passes within individual episodes, but time doesn't accumulate across the series. Technology provides the clearest evidence of the timeline shifting. Early episodes showed The Simpsons using rotary phones, VCRs, and other 1980s technology. The family watched antenna television on a bulky TV set. Homer used payphones when away from home. These were the normal technologies of the era when those episodes were produced. Recent episodes showed the family with smartphones, flat-screen TVs, and internet access. The house has Wi-Fi. Characters text each other. They use social media. The technological environment has completely changed while the characters themselves haven't aged. Pop culture references update similarly. Early episodes referenced celebrities and media that were current in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Recent episodes reference TikTok, streaming services, and contemporary celebrities. The show treats these current references as normal parts of the Simpson family's world. But this creates contradictions, where the same characters who lived through the 1990s are also living through the 2020s without aging. Historical events compound the problem. The show has referenced 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, COVID-19, and other major events. These events are treated as part of the character's lived experience. But if Homer experienced 9/11 as an adult, and that was over 20 years ago, he should be significantly older than he appears. The show wants to comment on current events while keeping characters frozen at their original ages. These goals are mathematically incompatible. Presidential references reveal the timeline shift clearly. Early episodes showed George H.W. Bush as president, which was accurate when those episodes aired. Later episodes referenced Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden as presidents. Homer has now lived through at least 6 different presidencies while remaining the same age. This is impossible unless we accept that Homer's age resets along with the timeline. The show occasionally acknowledges this paradox directly. Some episodes include jokes about the characters not aging. In one episode, Homer looks at Maggie and asks how long she's been a baby. Another episode has Lisa questioning why she's still in 2nd grade. These meta jokes show the writers are aware of the problem, but they don't solve it. They just laugh at it and move on. Matt Groening has addressed the aging question in interviews. He's explained that the show operates on what he calls cartoon time, where characters don't age because aging would eventually end the series. If Bart aged normally, he'd graduate high school, go to college, and eventually stop being the Bart Simpson viewers know. The show would have to either end or become about completely different characters. Keeping everyone the same age preserves the show's core dynamic indefinitely. But cartoon time doesn't fully explain the floating timeline issue. Many cartoons keep characters the same age without constantly updating their backstories. The Flintstones never changed when Fred and Wilma were teenagers. Scooby-Doo didn't update Shaggy and Velma's origin story every decade. The Simpsons is unusual in actively rewriting character histories to stay current, while simultaneously keeping the characters frozen. This creates philosophical questions about identity and continuity. Is the Homer Simpson from 2024 the same person as the Homer Simpson from 1989? They have different backstories. They were teenagers in different decades. They've experienced different historical events. They use different technology. The only thing connecting them is the name and appearance. In every meaningful sense, they're different characters who happen to share a body. The floating timeline also affects how episodes age. An episode from 1995 that referenced then current events now feels dated. It references technology and culture from a specific historical moment. But according to the show's internal logic, that episode is supposed to exist in the same timeline as episodes from 2024. The 1995 episode's references to 1990s culture should be just as current as 2024 references to 2020's culture. But obviously they're not. This creates a contradiction where old episodes become historical documents, while new episodes exist in the present, even though they're supposed to share a timeline. Some fans have attempted mathematical calculations of the Simpson family's actual age based on episodes. If you count every Christmas episode, Bart has celebrated Christmas at least 35 times. Most people who celebrate Christmas 35 times are in their late 30s at minimum. Bart should be older than Homer was in the first season. These calculations always end in absurdity because the show's premise makes linear time impossible. The floating timeline serves a practical purpose. It keeps the show relevant to contemporary audiences. A show about 1980s family life wouldn't resonate with the viewers born in the 2000s. Updating the setting, technology, and references makes the show accessible to new generations. The cost is continuity, but the show has decided that relevance matters more than consistency. Other long-running shows handle aging differently. South Park keeps its characters young, but mostly maintains consistent backstory. Family Guy freezes its characters, but doesn't update their origins as aggressively. The Simpsons' approach is unique in how thoroughly it rewrites its own history to maintain a sliding present. This makes the show simultaneously timeless and historically specific to whatever era each episode was produced. The aging paradox won't ever be resolved because resolving it would require the show to commit to either aging the characters or fixing their backstory in a specific era. Neither option serves the show's interests. Aging the characters would eventually end the series. Fixing the backstory would make the show feel dated to future audiences. The floating timeline is frustrating for continuity, but it's the only structure that allows the show to run indefinitely while staying current. Bart Simpson will probably be 10 years old when the show eventually ends, whether that's 5 years from now or 20. Lisa will still be 8. Homer and Marge will still be in their 30s. And if the show runs long enough, flashbacks will eventually show Homer and Marge as teenagers in the 2010s, meeting each other at a time when current viewers were already born. The timeline will keep sliding forward, rewriting itself endlessly, keeping the characters frozen while the world ages around them. This is the price of television immortality. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the question that's confused fans for decades. Are Treehouse of Horror episodes canon? The Simpsons airs a Halloween special every October. These episodes are called Treehouse of Horror, and they've been a tradition since 1990. Each special contains 3 short segments featuring the Simpson family in horror, science fiction, or supernatural scenarios. Characters die violent deaths. The world gets destroyed. Monsters, aliens, and supernatural forces appear. These stories clearly exist outside the show's normal continuity. They're presented as non-canon Halloween entertainment separate from the regular series. The show even includes disclaimers at the beginning warning viewers that the content isn't part of the main storyline. But then regular episodes reference events from Treehouse of Horror specials. Characters from the Halloween episodes appear in normal episodes. The line between canon and non-canon blurs constantly. So are these annual specials part of the Simpsons universe or completely separate fiction? The first Treehouse of Horror aired on the 25th of October, 1990, during Season 2. The format was established immediately. The episode opened with the Simpson family in their treehouse, telling scary stories. Each story became an animated segment. The framing device made it clear these were fictional tales being told by the characters, not actual events happening to them. The segments that first year included a haunted house story, an alien abduction, and an Edgar Allan Poe adaptation. None of it was meant to be real within the show's universe. Early Treehouse of Horror episodes maintained strict separation from regular continuity. Characters died in these specials knowing they'd be alive in the next regular episode. Homer got his head chopped off. Bart was transformed into a fly. The entire world ended multiple times. None of these events carried over into normal episodes. The Halloween specials were essentially alternate universe stories where the rules of the regular show didn't apply. Violence could be more extreme. Deaths could be permanent within that segment. Nothing had consequences beyond that 20-minute special. The opening disclaimers reinforced this separation. Most Treehouse of Horror episodes begin with a warning that the content is too scary for children and shouldn't be viewed. These warnings are jokes, but they serve a narrative purpose. They tell the audience that what follows exists outside normal continuity. The show is explicitly saying these stories aren't real, even within its fictional universe. They're Halloween entertainment, like telling ghost stories around a campfire. The stories use the Simpson characters, but the events aren't actually happening to them. But the show undermines this separation constantly. The most obvious violation is Kang and Kodos, the 2 aliens who first appeared in the Treehouse of Horror segment, Hungry Are the Damned, from that first Halloween special in 1990. These characters were introduced as non-canon Halloween villains. they appeared in a segment about aliens abducting the Simpson family. The segment ended with the family returning to Earth. Kang and Kodos were clearly one-time characters created for a non-canon story, except Kang and Kodos have appeared in almost every Treehouse of Horror since then. They become recurring characters in the Halloween specials, showing up in different segments playing different roles. Sometimes they're trying to conquer Earth. Sometimes they're just background characters. Their presence has become a tradition within the Halloween episodes. This still maintains separation from canon because they only appear in October specials. But then Kang and Kodos started appearing in regular episodes. Not often, but it happens. They've made cameo appearances in normal continuity episodes that air outside of Halloween. Sometimes they're just visible in crowd scenes. Other times they have small speaking roles. These aren't dream sequences or fantasy scenarios. They're actual appearances in regular episodes that are considered canon. If Kang and Kodos exist in canon episodes, then they're real characters within the Simpsons universe. But they were introduced in a non-canon Halloween special. Their existence creates an immediate continuity problem. The most significant Kang and Kodos appearances come in election episodes. Starting in 1996 with Treehouse of Horror 7, the show established a tradition of Kang and Kodos impersonating political candidates in presidential election years. The segment Citizen Kang showed the aliens disguised as Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, manipulating the 1996 election. This became a recurring joke. Every 4 years, Kang and Kodos appear in a Treehouse of Horror segment related to that year's presidential election. These segments reference real candidates and real political events. They're clearly commenting on actual elections happening when the episodes air. But if these segments are non-canon, why do they reference real-world events so specifically? The aliens discuss actual political issues. They parody real candidates using their real names. The segments engage with contemporary politics in ways that regular episodes do. This gives them a strange semi-canon status where they're fictional stories about real events featuring characters who also appear in canon episodes. The boundaries become impossible to maintain clearly. Regular episodes reference Treehouse of Horror content occasionally. Characters will make passing comments about events that only happen in Halloween specials. These references are usually brief and could be dismissed as jokes, but they acknowledge that characters remember things from Treehouse of Horror episodes. If the Halloween specials are completely separate non-canon fiction, characters shouldn't remember them at all. The fact that references exist suggests some level of continuity between the specials and regular episodes. The death problem highlights the canon confusion. Characters die brutally in Treehouse of Horror segments. Homer gets killed dozens of times across different specials. Bart, Lisa, and Marge have all died in various segments. These deaths are treated as permanent within their individual segments. The segment ends with the character dead. Then the next segment begins with everyone alive again. Or the episode ends, and the next week's regular episode shows everyone fine. Death has no permanence in Halloween specials because these specials exist outside consequences. But what does it mean for a character to die in a non-canon story? The character isn't really dead because the story isn't really happening. But the audience watched Homer die. They saw the character experience death, even if it was fictional within fiction. These death scenes are sometimes emotionally resonant or dramatically significant. Treating them as completely meaningless because they're non-canon feels reductive. The stories might not affect regular continuity, but they still exist as stories that use these characters. Some Treehouse of Horror segments explore character dynamics or relationships in ways that feel true to the characters even within supernatural contexts. A segment might put Marge and Homer in a horror scenario, but their relationship and how they interact feels consistent with their regular characterizations. The supernatural elements are different, but the core characters remain recognizable. This creates emotional continuity even when narrative continuity doesn't exist. The characters we know are experiencing these events, even if those events aren't real within the show's universe. The show has never established clear rules about what counts as canon from Treehouse of Horror episodes. There's no official policy stating that everything in Halloween specials is non-canon,
or that certain elements can cross over into regular episodes. The show seems to operate on a case-by-case basis. If a Halloween special creates something useful for regular episodes, like Kang and Kodos, it gets incorporated. If a segment kills a major character, that's ignored. The show picks and chooses what has continuity rather than following a consistent rule. This selective canonization frustrates fans who want clear boundaries. Either Treehouse of Horror episodes are canon, or they're not. Having them be partially canon, where some elements count and others don't, makes it impossible to know which parts of any given episode matter for continuity. When a Halloween special introduces a concept or character, there's no way to know if that will appear in regular episodes or remain Halloween only. The ambiguity is permanent. Writers have occasionally discussed Treehouse of Horror canon status in interviews and DVD commentaries. The general consensus seems to be that Halloween specials are non-canon unless something from them gets explicitly brought into regular continuity. Kang and Kodos were non-canon until they appeared in a regular episode, at which point they became canon. This means canon status can change.
Retroactively. A segment can be non-canon when it airs, but become canon years later if a regular episode references it. This retroactive canonization makes tracking continuity nearly impossible. Fans would need to watch every Treehouse of Horror segment and cross-reference it with every regular episode to determine which Halloween content has been elevated to canon status. Most fans don't do this. They either accept all Treehouse of Horror as non-canon and ignore any contradictions, or they accept all of it as canon and embrace the chaos. Both approaches have problems. The meta aspects of Treehouse of Horror episodes add another layer of confusion. Some segments break the fourth wall. Characters acknowledge they're in a Halloween special. They reference being in a non-canon story. These meta moments suggest even the characters know these episodes aren't real. But if characters within the show recognize the difference between canon and non-canon episodes, that implies a level of self-awareness that contradicts how they behave in regular episodes where they don't seem to know they're in a TV show. Comparing Treehouse of Horror to other shows' special episodes reveals how unusual the Simpsons' approach is. Many sitcoms have done dream episodes or fantasy episodes that are explicitly non-canon. Usually these episodes are clearly marked as separate from continuity and never referenced again. The Simpsons is unusual in having annual non-canon episodes that sometimes feed back into canon. The tradition is too established to abandon, but the canon status remains permanently unclear. The visual style of Treehouse of Horror episodes has evolved over the years, but remains distinct from regular episodes. The animation is often more detailed or stylized. The color palette tends toward darker, more atmospheric tones. The musical score includes horror and thriller elements not present in regular episodes. These stylistic differences signal to viewers that they're watching something different from a normal episode. But style alone doesn't determine canon status. An episode can look different and still be part of continuity. Some of the best Simpsons stories have appeared in Treehouse of Horror segments. The Shining, a parody of The Shining from Treehouse of Horror Vive, is considered one of the funniest segments the show ever produced. Time and Punishment, and from the same episode, explores time travel and alternate realities in clever ways. These segments are beloved by fans, despite being non-canon. Their quality and entertainment value exist independently of whether they affect continuity. This suggests canon status might not matter as much as whether the stories are good. What we can state definitively is limited. Treehouse of Horror episodes are presented as separate from regular continuity through opening disclaimers and framing devices. Characters die permanently within individual segments. Extreme violence and supernatural elements appear that contradict regular show rules. Kang and Kodos originated in Treehouse of Horror, but have appeared in regular episodes. Some regular episodes contain references to Halloween special events. Writers generally describe Halloween specials as non-canon, unless elements are brought into regular episodes. The show has no official written policy clarifying which content is canon. Fans disagree about whether any Treehouse of Horror content should be considered part of continuity. Whether these episodes count as canon or exist as separate fiction that sometimes intersects with regular continuity is a question the show refuses to answer clearly. The Simpsons seems to prefer maintaining ambiguity rather than establishing firm rules. This ambiguity might be the point. Treehouse of horror episodes exist in a liminal space between canon and non-canon, borrowing characters and occasionally lending content back to regular episodes, without fully committing either way. The mystery isn't whether these episodes are canon. The mystery is whether the concept of canon even meaningfully applies to a show that's willing to contradict itself. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the final mystery. What do Matt Groening's hidden messages in the credits really mean? At the end of every Simpsons episode, during the closing credits, Matt Groening's name appears in a distinctive handwritten signature. Most viewers never pay attention to it. The credits scroll by quickly, showing the names of writers, animators, and producers. Groening's signature is just one element among hundreds of credits. But some fans have noticed something strange. That signature doesn't always look exactly the same. Across hundreds of episodes, spanning over 3 decades, the signature has subtle variations. Sometimes letters appear slightly different. The spacing changes. The thickness of lines varies. These differences could be random artifacts of how the signature is reproduced for different episodes, or they could be intentional alterations containing hidden messages that Matt Groening embedded in his own name across years of production. The standard Matt Groening signature has a particular style. It's handwritten in a casual script with connected letters. The M and G are typically larger than other letters. The signature has a flowing quality that makes it recognizable as Groening's actual handwriting rather than a typeset font. This signature appears in the production credits, usually near other producer and creator credits. The style has remained relatively consistent over the show's run, making variations more noticeable when they occur. Fans began documenting signature variations in online forums around the early 2000s when DVD releases made it easier to examine credits frame by frame. Before DVD, credits scrolled by too quickly on television broadcasts for detailed analysis. Home video made it possible to pause and scrutinize every frame. Dedicated fans started comparing signatures across different episodes, looking for patterns or changes. They found variations that seemed too deliberate to be accidental. Some variations involve specific letters appearing altered. The way the G connects to the R in Groening changes between episodes. Sometimes the connection is smooth. Other times, there's a visible gap or different angle. The double E in Groening occasionally looks different, with varying spacing or height. These are subtle differences that require close examination to notice. Most viewers would never detect them watching episodes at normal speed. The most controversial claim about the signature involves alleged hidden profanity. Some fans insist that certain variations of the signature, when examined closely, contain obscene words or phrases hidden within the letter forms. The theory is that Groening secretly embedded profanity into his own signature as a joke or rebellion against network censorship. These claims spread widely online, with fans posting screenshots highlighting specific episodes where the signature supposedly contains hidden text. The profanity claims are difficult to verify. The alleged hidden words require significant interpretation. Fans point to specific curves or flourishes in the signature and claim these form letters spelling out obscene phrases. But these interpretations often involve seeing patterns that may not actually exist. The signature is handwritten and stylized, which means irregular curves and unusual letter connections are normal features of the design. Claiming these irregularities are intentional hidden messages requires assuming intent that may not be there. Other fans theorize the signature contains coded messages unrelated to profanity. Some believe variations spell out inside jokes comprehensible only to the production team. Others think the signature includes references to specific episodes or events in Groening's life. These theories are less inflammatory than the profanity claims, but equally difficult to prove. Without confirmation from Groening himself, any interpretation of signature variations remains speculative. Comparing signatures across different seasons reveals that some variation is inevitable due to production changes.
Early episodes were animated using traditional cell animation techniques. Later episodes transitioned to digital animation. This technical shift affected how the signature appeared on screen. The same handwritten signature reproduced through different animation processes would naturally look slightly different. Digital remastering of older episodes for high-definition releases also changed how signatures appear. What looked one way on original broadcasts might look different on DVD or streaming platforms due to different video processing. The transition from standard definition to high-definition television revealed details in the signature that weren't visible in earlier broadcasts. SD broadcasts had lower resolution, making
fine details blur together. HD broadcasts show sharper, clearer images where every pen stroke is visible. This increased clarity revealed variations that fans couldn't see before. Some alleged hidden messages only became visible when episodes were released in HD, suggesting these messages might be artifacts of increased resolution rather than intentional alterations. Groening's actual signature has evolved naturally over 35 years. People's handwriting changes over time. The signature Groening produced in 1989 wouldn't be identical to one he produced in 2024, even if he tried to replicate it exactly. Natural variation in handwriting, combined with aging and decades of signing documents, would create noticeable differences. If Groening re-signed his name for different seasons or episodes, those signatures would show organic variation that has nothing to do with hidden messages. Some fans point to other creators who hid messages in their work as precedent for believing Groening would do the same. Animators at various studios have included Easter eggs, inside jokes, and hidden messages in animation for decades. Disney animators famously hid references and jokes in background details. Other shows have included coded messages in opening sequences or credits. The practice of hiding content in plain sight is well established in animation production. This makes it plausible that Groening would participate in this tradition. But plausibility isn't proof. Just because other creators hide messages doesn't mean Groening does. The Simpsons includes plenty of obvious jokes and references that don't require decoding. The show is full of visual gags and backgrounds, throwaway lines packed with jokes, and cultural references for attentive viewers. If Groening wanted to include messages, he could do it overtly rather than hiding them in his signature, where most viewers would never notice. Groening has never confirmed or denied the hidden message theories in any interview or public statement. When asked about his signature or the show's production details, he discusses other aspects of the creative process. The signature mystery doesn't seem to be something he addresses publicly. This silence could mean the theories are false and not worth commenting on. Or it could mean Groening enjoys letting fans speculate and doesn't want to ruin the mystery by confirming or denying anything. The lack of official comment leaves fans relying entirely on their own analysis. Without authorial confirmation, determining whether variations are intentional or accidental becomes a Rorschach test. Fans who want to believe in hidden messages will find patterns supporting that belief. Skeptics will see the same variations as random artifacts of production processes. Both groups look at identical evidence and reach opposite conclusions based on their interpretive frameworks. Digital forensics could theoretically analyze the signature across all episodes to determine if variations follow patterns or occur randomly. If variations were intentional, they might correlate with specific episode numbers, air dates, or thematic content. Random variations from production processes would show no such patterns. But no comprehensive forensic analysis of the signature has been conducted, or at least not published publicly. Most fan investigations examine individual episodes or small samples, rather than the complete archive. The signature mystery connects to a larger pattern of viewers seeking hidden meanings in media. Fans want to believe their favorite shows contain secrets waiting to be discovered. Finding hidden messages makes viewers feel like insiders who notice something others missed. It creates a sense of participating in the show's creation through the act of discovery. Whether or not hidden messages actually exist becomes less important than the community experience of searching for them together. This is apophenia, the human tendency to perceive patterns and connections in random data. Brains are pattern recognition machines. We evolved to detect threats and opportunities by noticing subtle environmental changes. This cognitive tendency serves us well in many situations, but also makes us prone to seeing patterns that aren't really there. Face recognition software produces false positives. People see shapes in clouds. Conspiracy theories emerge from connecting unrelated events. The same cognitive processes that help us survive can mislead us into finding meaning in randomness. The Matt Groening signature mystery might be a perfect example of apophenia. Fans examine hundreds of signatures looking for variations. They find variations because handwritten signatures naturally vary. They interpret these variations as hidden messages, because finding hidden content is more exciting than accepting natural variation. The mystery perpetuates itself because there's no definitive way to prove the variations are meaningless. Absence of evidence for intentional messages doesn't prove the messages don't exist. This unfalsifiability makes the mystery permanent. But maybe that's exactly what makes this mystery perfect as the final mystery in this investigation. The signature mystery represents what makes all Simpsons mysteries fascinating. We're looking at something that definitely exists in the show, searching for meaning that may or may not be there, and unable to confirm our interpretations without creator input that may never come. The mystery exists in the gap between what we can observe and what we can prove. Every mystery examined in this breakdown shares this quality. We have evidence, we have contradictions, we have questions, we lack definitive answers. The show continues producing new content that adds to existing mysteries without resolving them. Fans continue analyzing, theorizing, and debating. The mysteries remain alive because they remain unsolved. The signature mystery is either the deepest mystery in the show, containing secret messages hidden in plain sight for 35 years, or it's not a mystery at all. Just random variation that fans have elevated into something meaningful. We might be brilliant detectives uncovering Groening's hidden communication, or we might be creating patterns from noise. There's no way to know for certain, and perhaps that uncertainty is the point. Maybe the real mystery isn't what's hidden in Matt Groening's signature. Maybe the real mystery is why we look so hard for hidden meanings. What drives us to examine credits frame by frame, searching for messages that might not exist? Why do we need our entertainment to contain secrets? What are we really looking for when we hunt for hidden content in a cartoon sitcom? The Simpsons has been on the air for over 35 years. Throughout that time, it's accumulated hundreds of mysteries, contradictions, and unsolved questions. Some of these mysteries have official answers that don't quite satisfy. Others have no answers at all, and some, like the signature mystery, might not even be real mysteries, just our pattern-seeking brains finding meaning in randomness. But that's what makes these mysteries special. They keep us watching, analyzing, and debating. They turn a cartoon sitcom into something worth investigating. And after 3 hours of breaking down these unsolved Simpsons mysteries, one thing is certain. The show will keep creating new mysteries as long as it keeps airing. Thanks for watching.